to start off, I'm going to be going through some of my book collection. I have many different books here on many different subjects, and I think you might like some of them and find them interesting. Hopefully in future videos I can go through and actually read through some of them. But for right now I'm just going to kind of go through them one by one and we can just take a look. Quick ruffle through here. This book is called Think by Simon Blackburn. It's a philosophy book that I used for my philosophy class. So it's really neat. It kind of gives an overview of a lot of the core concepts. Just philosophy. Bring it up. Some of the chapter titles. Let's see here. Free will is another one. The self. And he sort of just gives an overview of some of the basic standard schools of thought, philosophy. Starting with, going back to like the Enlightenment and Greece and things like that. It's really neat and really interesting, and I think this would be a good one to sort of go through on future videos and read from. Speaking of philosophy, next we have another one of my favorites. It's my copy of the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu. And for those of you that don't know what this is an ancient work of ancient Chinese philosophy. And it's almost like poetry. It's 81 short chapters that are like this. Bring it up to the camera. And, it's kind of like advice for living life, sort of. And kind of about harmonizing your outlook and your actions with sort of the natural way or natural course of things, called the Tao, which is Chinese for way or course or path. And it was written over 2,000 years ago. And it was one of the first texts for the Taoist philosophy. So this is really fascinating. And the edition I have is really beautiful with illustrations and characters like calligraphy on some of the pages. So this is what I'm definitely gonna be reading in a future video for sure. And, I'll give some tapping. It's a nice hardcover edition that feels really good in the hands and makes nice sounds. The cover is nice texture to it. a similar vein, I have the complete works of Zhuangzi. This is similar to the Tao Te Ching. It's another work of ancient Taoist philosophy. This is much longer, and it's written in sort of the mode of stories or parables. And it was written again several thousand years ago. And main idea is again sort of how to harmonize your life and your actions with kind of the natural course of things or the natural state of the universe. There's a lot of very interesting ideas in it, and it's definitely worth looking at. And this edition's really nice. It has the cover. It's covered in these Chinese characters. It has a very nice sort of matte finish to it. I'm sorry, my microphone's kind of next to my camera. I'll try to move it down a little bit. Next is The Making of the Atomic Bomb. This is a book my dad sent me. I haven't gotten super far into it, only maybe 100 pages or so. It's just like the title says, it's basically a history of the making of the atomic bomb. The story of the scientists and chemists and researchers who went in and, did the research and, how it sort of came to be. And, the author has a lot of his thoughts on war and sort of the nature of human knowledge, kind of, in some ways. Very interesting. But again, I'm going to have to read some more of it to really, really dive into it. So hopefully, again, in a future video, I can sort of pick up and maybe give an overview of where I was, and just keep reading, and we can kind of go through it together. The book has some nice photos of people in it, involved in the World War II. There's Niels Bohr. He's a physicist, one of the early pioneers of quantum physics. Looks like some World War I soldiers in gas masks. There's a lot in this, and it's really, really neat. Next, this is a super weird one. It's House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski. So this is basically a horror novel. It's really thick, very long. And it's written in a very strange and unique way. As you can see, if we flip through, there's different fonts, different text arrangements. I'll skip through here. Sometimes it gets pretty crazy. There's just weird things. I don't really want to spoil sort of anything about the book. Some pages are just almost blank with just one sentence down here. The words kind of go crazy in some places. Basically, it's the story of a photographer and a filmmaker who moves his family into a house, and the house is bigger on the inside than it is on the outside. And if you notice, the cover of the book is smaller than the actual book. So, like the house, the book is literally bigger on the inside than on the outside. So it's full of weird little details like that. One thing I will say though is it is very, very dark. So just be warned if you want to pick it up. It can be extremely unsettling. But it's great if you're into really crazy horror and weird, sort of weirdly designed books. This is another one from my philosophy class, Vortex on Socrates. It's got some, some of the classic works from Plato in it. Pretty standard, intro to philosophy type stuff. But it's pretty cool. This is a really cool book. It's called How Not to Be Wrong: The Power of Mathematical Thinking by Jordan Ellenberg. And basically, a little hard to explain, is basically a book that goes through and sort of shows how math plays a part in everyday life and in ways that people might not expect. A lot of it is kind of applied math, goes through things like the lottery, or, one of the earliest examples is of fighter pilots in World War II, when they were trying to decide where to put armor on planes, like combat planes. They would look at, when planes would come back, where the bullet holes were. And at first, they were gonna put more armor and fortify the armor on the places where the planes were coming back with damage from bullets. But one of the mathematicians they brought in to consult pointed out that what you actually want to do is put armor on the places where they're not getting hit. Because the fact that the planes were coming back at all meant that the planes were already able to get shot in those places without crashing or blowing up. And so you wanted to armor the other places, because that's where, if planes got shot, they weren't coming back. And so it's things like that, like little stories and ideas involving math and mathematical things in ways that you might not expect. And I'm a math major, so like this type of thing is really cool to me. This is a really good. Definitely want to go through some of this. This one's really cool too. It's Original Gangsters. It's basically a biography and history of West Coast hip hop in the 80s and 90s. Artists like Tupac Shakur, Dr. Dre, Eazy-E, Ice Cube, the rest of NWA, all of them. It's really cool. It's just sort of kind of switches between sort of the different people. Talks about their early life and how they got started making music, and sort of eventually, just kind of up throughout the 90s and 80s. Really interesting book. It goes by really fast. Really good read. I'd recommend this if anyone's sort of a fan of hip hop, especially like old school or West Coast type of stuff. And in a similar vein, we have here Jay-Z's book Decoded. And I was skeptical at first. Not skeptical, but I thought it was just gonna be a book of. It was advertised just as a book of his lyrics with like annotations, but it's really more of an autobiography. It's really well designed too. Lots of illustrations and photography. And yeah, he talks about growing up and sort of how he started making music. Lots of cool stuff with the font and layout. He also, he does annotate his lyrics with explanations here for some of his songs. Also talks about sort of his personal philosophy and how he approaches writing lyrics and things like that in the first place. So this is a really, really cool book. Again, anyone who's a fan of hip-hop should definitely check this out, even if you're not a fan of Jay-Z, just because it's really neat, really insightful, and it's a lot more than just a book of lyrics, which I thought it was going to be. There's a lot in here. This is the book I just started. A few days ago. Infinite Jest by David Foster Wallace. This one, it's, it's huge. It's like 1,000 pages long, with endnotes. This and House of Leaves are the only two novels I've ever read that had like footnotes. Really weird. Basically, it sort of takes place in a near future world, with a whole ton of characters, and it kind of switches between them. And it's kind of like dark comedy, satire on about sort of a bunch of things. Again, I'm not that far into it, so I'll definitely, come back in a future video, give my thoughts on it, because this is one of those books that's very polarizing. People seem to either really, really love it and think it's a, modern classic, or they hate it and think it's pretentious. Right now, I really like it. I guess I can kind of see how people would think it's pretentious, but it doesn't really feel that way to me. The book has a really good sense of humor, and it's just super neat, kind of the way he's writing. Never really read anything that's sort of written in this sort of style. This is a book I just finished about a week ago or so. Bad Knights of the Republic by Zachary Thomas Dodson. It's categorized as an illuminated novel because if you open it up and look, similar to some of the other books I have, the formatting is very interesting. There's diagrams, drawings, handwritten, telegram things, handwritten notes, parts that are supposed to be like photocopies of like an old book. Basically, it takes place in the far future, in like a sort of steampunk, dystopian future, where society's collapsed and people live in these walled-off city-states. And the main character inherits a letter from one of his ancestors from 300 years ago, which would be 300 years ago from the future of the book, so it's actually like the 1800s in our time. This is the letter. The letter itself is in the back of the book. And I don't want to spoil anything, but it gets really weird. The book goes back and forth between the main character trying to figure out the letter. He's trying to understand what it means. He loses it and tries to find it, and all sorts of internal politics. And then the other half of the book is back in the past with his ancestor. And he's trying to deliver the letter to a general in Texas, the Republic of Texas, before it joined the U.S. in the 1800s. Again, I don't want to spoil it, but it's really strange. The plot kind of sort of folds in on itself in a way that I've never really seen before. But it's like a handwritten letter on this page. Diagram. I guess the author, Zachary Dodson, he's a graphic designer as well. That's his normal job, so just every inch of the book has been designed and is just filled with all sorts of cool stuff. Like here, the jacket. You open it up and it has a whole other artwork, whole other set of artwork on the inside. The actual book itself. It's just very beautiful. Probably the most well-designed book I've ever seen. It even has a little ribbon to mark your place, like, so it's really neat. Another really interesting book. It's called Check the Technique, and it's sort of interviews with hip-hop artists about their classic albums, and they go through track by track, and they sort of tell the story behind it, or what inspired them, or any any interesting information. You have Two Live Crew, Big Daddy Kane, Common Resurrection album, De La Soul, Eric B. and Rakim, and you go through, and through. This is Mobb Deep right here, the infamous. Talking about it, you learn cool, like trivia stuff about how these classic albums were made and what went into them. And lastly, here we have something. My mom got this for me. She's a huge fan of Hamilton. I think it's pretty good. And this is sort of a, I guess, companion to the musical with, it has the lyrics and stuff, but it also has background, kind of like the making of with pictures and behind the scenes stuff. It's printed on this really good sort of thick paper. It almost feels like parchment. So this is a really cool thing to sort of flip through. And the pages will have this sort of, it's like a rough cut texture to them. So again, it feels like almost like a really old book from like the 1700s or something. Just like the play. So yeah, that was just sort of a quick look through my book collection just for my first video. In the future, I hope to go through, read through some of these with you guys, and maybe another video look through a movie collection, or I want this channel to be kind of like just sort of a little bit of everything. I'll probably do some Let's Plays of cool video games that I like, and just sort of show you stuff and just do whatever sort of content kind of comes to my mind. So, thanks for watching and listening, and hopefully this sort of helped you fall asleep or just relax.